Okay, today I'm going to show you how to install here's in your pushrod V8. Pretty much applies for almost every single American-based V8 or pushrod V8 that's out there, from Chevy to Ford to Mopar. There will be some slight differences depending on the style of lifters you have, if they're a link bar, if they're dog bone mount, whatever type they are. Some you may have to pull the cylinder heads off. I know some LS's, or LS, I'm pretty sure you have to pull the heads. Top of my head right now, but I'm pretty sure you have to pull the heads on LS's. This one you do not, so we're going to be pulling off the upper intake, the lower, distributor, all the wiring, fuel injection, and that sort of stuff. So we'll get into it. Okay, so I got the upper part of the intake manifold off. I also took the valve covers off, and slowly making progress in the engine. So we're gonna start removing the injector harness and moving that out of the way. It'll be easier doing it off camera just because it's a bit of a pain with how tight it can be in some spots down in here to get them out. So I'll do that off camera. And then we're just gonna kind of move the harness off to each side so you have more room to work, and also the distributor harness. Then we'll bring the motor up to top dead on number 1, start loosening off the rockers. And yeah, we'll loosen off the rockers, pull the rockers and push rods out. We'll also then get the fuel injectors removed. Some injectors, depending on the vehicle, I don't believe most Chevys have. Actually, no, is the Chevys that were EFI, the 350s that were EFI were TBI. So, okay, so I got the intake off, and I looked in here. You see what I see right there? See the oil? That's the studs. There's no sealant. There's no sealant put on the studs that come through into the intake runner. And on each and every single one, look where I see oil. See that? Oil on each and every single one where the stud goes into the intake manifold. On both sides, see it? There's one. See that one? Yeah, I think you can kind of see it. So, apparently, on the studs, no one put any sealant on them. So oil has been going into the intake manifold that way all of this time. So since I've owned these heads, that has been a reoccurring issue. Great. I wish I caught that sooner. Shit. So that's why I have oil in the intake manifold. So on D-cell, it probably creates a shit ton of vacuum, and it will pull oil through, plus the positive crankcase pressure, which then will push it in. So it's, yeah, great. Also, that took me damn near an hour and a half just to get the damn gasket off, and that's how it came apart for the intake gasket. Absolute nightmare. Holy shit, was that a pain in the ass to get just those two off. Absolute pain in the ass. Holy crap. And I got the tray out, so now it's time to start pulling the dog bone mounts and the lifters out. Yeah, make sure you have the oil passages plugged up, because you don't want debris getting inside your engine, like that there. And just clean out whatever debris did get in. So you don't want this going through bearings or anything else to mess it up potentially. Then give it a liberal clean with some brake clean afterwards. Okay, so now we're ready to install the new lifters. Now you're gonna want to watch the orientation of that port. You're gonna want the port to face into the valley. Just bring it in. next one. Next one. Okay, so we got all the lifters in, and we got the tray back in. Now you're gonna want to take a little bit of brain Loctite, some blue Loctite, and you're gonna want to put it on the 2 bolts that hold it in, because you don't want this coming out. More than enough. So yeah, you don't want those coming out, so you want to put a little bit of Loctite on those before they thread in. I can't remember off the top of my head what the torque spec is. I'll put it up on the screen now. What the actual torque spec is, but it's not too much. I think I saw somewhere 100 inch-pounds or something like that. You want to make sure that you get the tray kind of centered in them, and then you don't always start it by hand. Don't go crazy on them. They're not big. These will snap if you over tighten it. So don't over tighten it. Basically, you just snug those down. Again, I don't know how many other engines have that besides the Ford. And that's if you haven't converted it to a link bar lifter, which is honestly the way to go. So the new rockers just came in. First thing I noticed with them, there is absolutely zero play left to right. On mine, there's definite play left to right and up and down. Not as much up and down, but there's left to right. There's wobble on my old ones. These have nothing. This has a little bit with the shaft. You can see kind of moves just a little bit, but that's normal. I could watch the whole shaft on my other ones. It twists left to right. So yeah, it was definitely worn. They're definitely worn out. This should be the fix to all the valve train issues that I've been having over the past, I guess, a couple of years, really. Hasn't always had the quietest valve train, but it got progressively worse this year. So yeah, I guess finally we'll have a better valve train than I've ever had. So okay, so what I've already noticed is there's a lot less movement in them. It's a lot less. There's still some movement. You're always gonna have some, and the lifter bled out a little bit on a couple of them. But it feels tighter even on this side. So I'm not all the way down, I'm just about there. See that? Look how much less movement there is. Much less movement. You're always gonna have some, but that was definitely excessive movement. So I'm gonna keep getting this done. Really close. Only got after this one 3 left, so, or 2 left, so I'm right about there. So yeah, I'm gonna get this finished up and see you guys in a bit. Okay, this seems a little better than last night. Just a hair. Just a hair. Lifters are still pumped up, so they'll get a little bit loose, but then they'll tighten back up. But that seems a lot tighter than with the crane ones. Okay, this seems a little better than last. Just a hair. Lifters are still pumped up, so they'll get a little bit loose, but then they'll tighten back up. But that seems a lot tighter than with the crane ones. Okay, so I got it all back together. I got rough timing in it. I gotta fire it up still to properly set timing. But yeah, it's back together. Got the oil changed out, got the coolant, whatever little bit of coolant got into the oil, done, all drained out, new filter. Most of the time you won't need to change the oil. Unlucky for me this time. I jinxed myself by saying I didn't want to get coolant in the oil, I guess. And yeah, basically once I pulled the upper intake manifold off, it dumped coolant in. Even though I tried blowing out the coolant, or tried to clear out as much out of the intake manifold as possible, as I ran the compressor and blew compressed air through it, but apparently that didn't get it all out, so I got unlucky. I know some people don't even have to change the oil. I just got unlucky. So rather than make a milkshake and hurt the engine, just easier and cheaper to change it. So I did. Beyond that, it's about ready to go. So just gonna get it fired up momentarily, and then we'll have to bleed the cooling system, which I'll do off camera because sometimes it can be a pain in the ass. Excuse me. Yeah, it can be a real pain to bleed the cooling system sometime. So yeah, I'm gonna go grab the keys and then get this thing fired up. It's gonna make a bit of noise at the beginning till the lifters bleed all the air out of them and get fully pumped up. So it will be a little noisy and clattery till then, but don't worry about it unless you really hear like a loud hammering from it. You're going to hear them tick for a little bit till they, again, get pumped up, but as long as it doesn't sound like something that, like loose or something massively wrong, it's fine. Just let them make their noise. They'll fill up with oil pretty quick and you'll be fine. If you're running a hydraulic flat tappet, you're going to want to, if you're carbed, take your idle. You're going to want to take the set screw and wind that idle up to about 2,000 RPM. And you are going to let it run for 2,000 RPM for 20 minutes. Do not shut the engine off. If you shut the engine off because it starts to overheat, you're going to have to restart the process of 20 minutes, 2,000 RPM. Don't start from where you had to shut the engine off at. Start from scratch. So if it overheats, it's a hydraulic flat tappet. If it's starting to get up on the temp, shut it off. Let the engine fully cool right down. So let it sit overnight. Start it up again the next day. 20 minutes, 2,000 RPM. You have to do 20 minutes, 2,000 RPM, or else you are going to kill a hydraulic flat tappet. You also want to make sure if you have a hydraulic flat tappet, after you break the new lifters in, drop the oil instantly. So 20 minutes, 2,000 RPM, drop the oil, fresh filter, immediately after. With a hydraulic roller, you don't need to do any of that. It's not a bad practice to do it, but you don't need to. But with a hydraulic flat tappet, you have to drop the oil every single time. Any metal contaminants will kill your camshaft. So make sure 20 minutes, 2,000 RPM, and you're going to want to do this even if it's a brand new crate motor. 20 minutes, 2,000 RPM. If it overheats, you have to shut the engine off, start from scratch the next day. 20 minutes, 2,000. So you got to make sure to do that, especially with how lifter quality currently is. You need to do that. It's a necessity to break them in correctly. So they need a lot of heat to get them broken in, and then you got to drop the oil so any metal contaminants are drained out. Okay, I'm gonna go grab the keys and then get this thing fired up.